of medieval comes from Latin Ewium medium or Middle Age and was first used in the 19th century. Middle Age is an era where European conditions were in pace of the fall of Roman Empire until the beginning of emergence of Renaissance in 14th century. Middle Age is also often referred to as the Dark Era because at the time there were no scientific discoveries, art, or meaningful leadership. The migrations by German barbarians or Teutonic tribes changed European life. Took place 2003. After the fall of Roman Empire, there was no single government or state that can unite nations in Europe. Throughout this period, the Church sought to serve spiritual needs of the people, in addition to strengthening its position as an institution of power and influence. The political system of decentralization during Middle Age is generally referred to feudalism. Feudalism is a social system that characterized medieval times where in reality it gave birth to a society full of violence, brutality, and abuse by the ruler. In this case, feudalism means control over matters relating to land ownership issues.
The Middle Ages or medieval period lasted from the 5th to the late 15th century. It began with the fall of the Western Roman Empire and merged into the Renaissance and the Age of Discovery. The Middle Ages is the middle period of the three traditional divisions of Western history: classical antiquity, the medieval period, and the modern period. The medieval period is itself subdivided into the early, high, and late Middle Ages.
In Europe during the medieval times, the only recognized religion was Christianity in the form of the Catholic religion. The life of the medieval people of the Middle Ages was dominated by the Church. From birth to death, whether a peasant, a serf, a noble, a lord, or a king, life was dominated by the Church and medieval religion. Various religious institutions, such as monasteries and convents, become both important, rich, and powerful. The life of many medieval people, including various orders of monks and nuns, were dedicated to the Catholic Church and religion. This was also a period of great change in the Christian Church.
The king in medieval era. Harold of Essex, Harold Godwinson or Harold II, was the last Anglo-Saxon king of England. His reign lasted from January 6 to until his death on October 14, 1066 at the Battle of Hastings. William I, William the Conqueror, 1028 until 1087, became the Duke of Normandy in 1035 and the King of England in 1066. William Rufus, William II of England, known as William Rufus, was born in Normandy between 1056 and 1060 and died in New Forest on August 2, 1100. He was the King of England from 26 September 1087 to August 2, 1100, and also held power over Scotland, Wales, and Normandy. Henry I, Henry I, also called Henry Becler the Cleric, for his cultural interests, reigned over England from August 5, 1100 to 1 December 1135. He also ruled the Duchy of Normandy. Henry I came to power upon the death of his brother, William Rufus. His reign is known for his skillful political opportunism, the improvement of the government, the integration of the Anglo-Saxon and Norman into his kingdom, the reunification of his father's domains, and his controversial, yet well-founded, decision to name his daughter as his heir. Stephen Stephen of Blois was King of England from December 22, 1135 to October 25, 1154. He was also Count of Mortain, Normandy, between 1112 and 1135. He became Duke of Normandy from 1135 to 1144 and Count of Boulogne from 1125 to 1151. His reign was marked by a war of succession which saw Stephen against his cousin Matilda, daughter of the previous ruler Henry I, as claimant to the throne. Henry II Henry II Plantagenet, Leman's 5 March 1133 until Chinon 6 July 1189, was Duke of Normandy in 1150. Count of Anjou and Maine in 1151, Duke of Aquitaine and Gascony 1152, and finally King of England from December 19, 1154 until his death on July 6, 1189. As the England king, he also had authority over certain regions in Wales, Scotland, and Eastern Ireland. He was the first king of the Plantagenet dynasty and had several nicknames. He was the son of Godfrey Plantagenet and of Matilda. He was the first king of the Plantagenet dynasty and had several nicknames. He was the son of Godfrey Plantagenet and Matilda of England. Richard I of England, also known as Richard the Lionheart, was King of England, Duke of Normandy, Duke of Aquitaine, Count of Poitiers, Count of Maine, and Count of Anjou from 1189 until his death in 1199. The son of Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine, Richard was raised in the Duchy of Aquitaine at his mother's court. John Lackland was King of England, Lord of Ireland, and Duke of Aquitaine from 1199 until his death. He was the fifth and the last son of King Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Jane was not destined to ascend to the throne or to receive any territory as an inheritance. Henry III was the King of England and Duke of Aquitaine and Gascony from 1216 until his death. He was the eldest son of King John Lackland and Countess Isabella of Angoulême. Edward Plantagenet, 1239 until 1307, was King of England and Duke of Aquitaine from 1272 to 1307. He was the son of Henry III and of the Eleanor of Provence. Edward II, 1284 until 1327, was King of England from 1307 until his deposition in January 1327. He was the fourth son of King Edward I. Edward III, 1312 until 1377, was King of England and Lord of Ireland from 1327 until his death. His reign, which lasted 50 years, began when his father, Edward I of England, was deposed on January 21, 1327, and ended in 1377. Before him, only Henry III had reigned so long, and it would be another 400 years before another monarch occupied the throne for the such length. Edward's reign was marked by the expansion of English territory through wars in Scotland and France.
Medieval English literature can be divided into three types, namely poetry, prose, and drama. First is poetry. Medieval poetry consists mainly of metrical romance or romantic stories written in poetic form about French heroes, Roland, Celtic heroes,
Arthur, and British heroes Bevis O. Hampton. Metrical romance is a long narrative poem about love and adventure. The main character or hero is usually a knight who saves women who are experiencing difficulties. In his adventure, the character knight fights against a giant, a dragon, a sorcerer, and other. His enemies, who must be conquered, can also be the rulers of the church or the state. Metrical romance is divided into three types based on the materials or subject matter, and French material includes stories about Charlemagne and his knight paladins such as the Chanson de Roland. English material include the legend of King Arthur and the Knight of the Round Table and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. The Roman material includes stories from the East such as Alexander the Great, the Siege of Troy and Floris, and the Blanche Fleur. Metrical romance which tell about the adventures of knights, kings, beautiful women only serve for the upper class or nobility, but there are also storytellers of travel stories, minsters who create ballads for the lower classes. Ballads are a kind of a simple narrative poetry in a form of stanzas, short stanzas consisting of 2 or 4 lines. There are two types of ballad. First, the popular or folk ballad, whose author and origin are unknown and which were transmitted orally from generation to generation. Second, literary ballad written by famous writers such as Keats, Tennyson, The Mass Life and Suffering of the Little Person. The common features of ballad are their speed and compaction, fast-moving scene movement, and very prominent visual details. Famous ballad titles include Sir Patrick Spens, Lord Randall, Edward, The Three Ravens, The Douglas Tragedy, and others. 2 is prose. Example of medieval English prose is John Wycliffe. He was a professor at the University of Oxford and a church figure in the field of literature. Wycliffe was known as a translator of the scriptures, and his translated work was distributed throughout England and was instrumental in shaping standard English or replaced various dialects. Another prose work is the Historia Regum Britanniae by Geoffrey Monmouth, a book about history the kings of England. It was he who created King Arthur as a romantic hero. The Norman French writer considered Geoffrey work to be an authentic historical document and used it as the basis for a story about King Arthur and his knight. 3 is drama. Drama re-emerged in the church as a medium spirituality to explain their sermon, because sermons in the form of performance were given in Latin, which was not understood by most people. The sermons were gradually replaced by English. Drama plays are taken from scriptures. For example, on Christmas Day, the role of Christ is shown, while on Easter, the story of the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ is presented. In the Middle Age, there were 2 kinds of drama, namely miracle, which act out the life of the saint, and mysteries, which took the themes from the Bible.
Economic of Medieval Age. Part 1. The economy of England in the Middle Age or Medieval Age, from the Norman invasion in 1066 to the death of Henry VII in 1909, was fundamentally agricultural. Though even before an invention, the market economy was important to the producer. Norman institutions, including serfdom, were superimposed, and an existing system of open fields and measure were established town and involved in international trade. Part 2. By the end of the period, England had a weak government. by later standards, overseeing an economy dominated by return farms controlled by gentry and a thriving community of indigenous English merchants and corporations. This was partially driven by the crown-aided population from around 1.7 million. Many increased in England, with the silver boom of the 12th century helping to fuel a fast expanding currency. Economic growth began to falter by the end of the 13th century, owing to a combination of overpopulation, land shortages, and default soils. Part 3. The loss of life in the Great Famine of 13 and 19. Part 3. The loss of life in the Great Famine of 13 and 15 shocked the English economy severely and population growth increases. The first outbreak of the Black Death in 13 and 48 then killed around half of the English population, with a major implication for the post-Floyd economy. Part 4. The 19th century saw the growth of the English clothes industry and the establishment of the new class of international English merchants, increasingly based in London and the Southwest, prospering at the expense of the older, shrinking economy of the eastern towns. Together with these improvements in the metalworking and shipbuilding, this represents the end of the medieval economy and the beginning of the early modern period in English economy.
Terms of disease. The Middle Ages can be regarded as beginning with the plague of 542 and ending with the Black Death or bubonic plague of 1348. Diseases and epidemic preparation included leprosy, bubonic plague, smallpox, tuberculosis, scabies, erysipelas, anthrax, trachoma, sweating sickness, and dancing mania. The isolation of persons with communicable diseases first arose in response to the spread of leprosy. This disease became a serious problem in the Middle Ages and particularly in 13th and 14th century. The Black Death, also known as pestilence, the Great Mortality, or the Plague, was a bubonic plague pandemic occurring in Eurasia from 3046 until 53. It is the most fatal pandemic recorded in human history, resulting in a death up to 75 until 200 million people in Eurasia and North Africa, peaking in Europe from 3047 to 3055. Bubonic plague is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, but it may also cause septicemic or pneumonic plague.